A week after the storm, I got a certified letter taped to my front door like I was being served. No knock, no conversation, just an envelope with the Homeowners Association logo sealed like they expected me to run. Inside was an invoice for $9,200 and a line that made my brain stall for a second violation, creating tire ruts in community snow surface. Not damage to property, not speeding, not noise, tire ruts in snow. I stood there in my entryway holding that paper, listening to my furnace kick on, and I felt my patience drain out of me in a clean, quiet way, because I knew exactly why my name was on that invoice. I'd been the guy plowing our private road before sunrise. Free, no contract, no applause, no hero nonsense, just me, a truck, and a neighborhood that can't function when the road turns into a white wall. And Cheryl Whitman, the president of our HOA, had decided that the best way to manage Maple Crest Estates was to punish the person making sure everyone could get out of their driveways. Cheryl always looked like she'd stepped out of an office building. Perfect hair, crisp jacket, a binder in her arms like it was part of her body. She loved paperwork the way some people love power tools. When I went to the next board meeting, because I'm not the type to argue through email, she was already set up at the front table with that binder open, tabs, color-coded notes highlighted. She didn't start with context. She didn't start with facts. She started with authority. The board has documented repeated aesthetic violations, she said, and slid a stack of photos toward me. 17 photos, time-stamped, different angles, close-ups, my truck, my plow tire marks in fresh snow. She'd been collecting evidence of me clearing the road. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just pointed at one of the pictures and said, "That's from Tuesday at 5:12 a.m. That's me making sure people could leave for work." Cheryl nodded like she was acknowledging a minor detail on a spreadsheet. And as you can see, she said the ruts disrupt the uniform appearance of the roadway. Uniform appearance. In a winter storm. I looked around the room. People were shifting in their chairs, avoiding eye contact, like they didn't want to be the next name on an invoice. "So you're fining me for plowing," I said, plain and direct. Cheryl's smile tightened. "You are being fined for non-compliance with community standards." That's how she talked, always one step removed from reality, always hiding behind a phrase that sounded official. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. Snow is not a rare event here. It's not decorative. It's not a vibe. It's the thing that shuts everything down when you ignore it. Maple Crest Estates has one main private road connecting the neighborhood to the county road. When the drifts stack up, you don't deal with it later. You deal with it now, or nobody goes anywhere. I own an old Ford F350 with a plow because I've lived in places where winter doesn't care what your schedule looks like. The first storm hit, I went out and cleared the road. The second storm hit, I did it again. Then again, then again. No one asked me to. I didn't ask for money. I didn't make a show of it. I just did it because it was obvious. Then Cheryl came along and turned it into a violation. By the next morning, I called an attorney named Megan Park. Not because I was emotional, because I don't play guessing games with fines that come with official letterhead. Megan listened, then said, "They're using vague language and stretching it. You can appeal, and you should. Also document every single interaction. Emails, notices, meeting minutes, anything. If they escalate, the paper trail matters." That was all I needed. That afternoon, I sent one email to the board and the management company. Short, clean, professional. I disputed the fine. I requested a formal hearing. And I added one line that changed the entire neighborhood overnight. Effective immediately, I will no longer provide snow removal services for the community roadway. I didn't write it to be dramatic. I wrote it because I'm not a public works department. I'm a homeowner, and I'm not going to keep doing free labor while someone uses it as a reason to punish me. Within an hour, my phone lit up. Jake Miller texted about time. Rachel Torres wrote, "Wait, seriously. What are we supposed to do?" And then Cheryl, because of course, sent a reply that sounded like she was issuing orders to a construction crew. "Your refusal to maintain safe access constitutes harm to the community. The board will take corrective action." That phrase again. Corrective action. Like I was a broken appliance. That night, her husband Ron showed up at my porch. Big guy. Uncomfortable energy. The kind of man who looks like he's been ordered to deliver a message he doesn't believe in. He didn't come inside. He didn't even step fully under the light. "They voted," he said. $200 a day if the road isn't cleared after snowfall. I stared at him for a second, then said, "Ron, I'm not under contract. I don't work for them." He shrugged like he was reading a parking sign. "I'm just telling you what they said." Then he left. And that's when I realized Cheryl wasn't just trying to fine me. She was trying to force me into being the neighborhood's unpaid employee under threat. 2 days later, the real storm hit. Heavy snow wind pushing drifts across the entrance like a barricade. And the plow company, the HOA claimed they hired, didn't show. Because as it turned out, the management company hadn't paid the deposit. Administrative delay. That's the polite term. Around 11 p.m., my phone rang. It was Rachel. Her voice was tight and fast. "Ethan, my kid cut his hand really bad. I called 911. They said they're coming, but the road is blocked. I don't see any tracks. I don't think they can get in." I stepped onto my porch and looked down the street. The road was untouched, smooth, quiet, pretty, in a way that gets people hurt. A few minutes later, I saw flashing lights at the entrance, then nothing. The ambulance stopped because it couldn't push through the drifts. That's not a principal moment, that's a logistics moment. I went to my garage, started, the truck dropped the plow and drove straight to the entrance. Snow rolled off the blade in heavy waves as I cut a path. The diesel engine growled, the tires gripped, and the whole neighborhood sounded like metal and wind. When I cleared enough space, the ambulance crept forward behind me. I didn't give a speech. I didn't negotiate with anyone. I just opened the road. We got them to Rachel's house. The medics went inside. I stayed out there and finished clearing the main stretch so nobody else would be trapped if another call came in. By morning, the neighborhood group chat was exploding. Not the usual someone left their trash can out. This was different. Why was the ambulance stuck? Where's the HOA plow service? Then someone posted a screenshot and email from the plow vendor saying they wouldn't come without payment. And Cheryl tried to spin it because that's what people like Cheryl do. She sent a message blaming resident non-cooperation. So I posted everything. The fine invoice, the photo evidence, Cheryl's corrective action email, the timeline, the fact that the board threatened daily fines to force me to plow. All of it clean and factual. Once it was out in the open, the room temperature in Maple Crest changed. People weren't debating appearance anymore. They were talking about liability, safety, basic competence. That afternoon, Denise Harper, the vice president, resigned by email. I allowed votes to happen that I regret, she wrote. I'm sorry. A day later, the HOA's insurance rep called the management company, which meant the management company called the board, which meant Cheryl suddenly stopped emailing in all caps. A special meeting was announced. Emergency agenda, mandatory attendance. The community room was packed, standing room packed. People weren't there for drama. They were there because they were done being managed like children. Cheryl sat at the front table with her binder, trying to look in control. She opened her mouth and someone cut her off. "You find the guy who kept this neighborhood moving," Jake said loud enough that the whole room went quiet. Another neighbor added, "You watched him plow," and called it a violation. Cheryl tried to raise a hand like she could restore order, but that only made it worse. That's when the recall petition landed on the table. Bylaws allow it. Signatures required. Vote scheduled. And one by one, people lined up and signed. No yelling, no theatrics, just pens hitting paper and a room full of adults taking back control of their own neighborhood. A week later, the vote happened. It wasn't close. Cheryl Whitman was removed as president of the Homeowners Association. 2 of her closest allies were removed with her. I watched her sit there as the result was read out loud, face-stiff binder closed for the first time since I'd met her. And for once, she didn't have a rule to hide behind. I walked out before anyone could turn it into a party, because the point wasn't celebration. The point was consequence, lesson. When a board forgets, it serves the community. The community has to remind it fast.